way
Yes.
the Supreme Court
Okay.
will rule on that Trump tariff.
Thank you, Sabah, for joining us with those details. Once again, Donald Trump and his administration are touting a claim that holds no water. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has claimed that India-U.S. trade deal fell through because Prime Minister Modi did not call President Trump
and set the whole deal up. But let's be clear. It's his deal.
Yeah.
Okay? He's the closer. He does the deal. So I said, you got to have Modi. It's all set up. You have to have Modi call the president. And they were uncomfortable doing it. So Modi didn't call.
Joining us live is Raymond Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. We also have Bharat Barai, Foreign Affairs expert, joining us live. Dr. Jaideep Bhattacharya, President CDEPR, is live with us. Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist, also joins the broadcast. Let me make a start with you first. Raymond Vickery, how do you react to this explosive claim by the U.S. Commerce Secretary?
It seems to me that the Commerce Secretary is trying to emulate his boss, President Trump. President Trump takes a transactional view of international relations, particularly in regard to tariffs, that it's a one-off deal and one person wins and the other person loses. And President Trump is bound and determined that he is the one who's the winner. And Howard Lutnick would like to be in that mode as well. And if it doesn't happen, it's somebody else's fault. It's not the great man who was supposed to have won the transaction. And then you throw into that the aspect of reality TV. President Trump for 14 years was on The Apprentice. You're fired and making for great TV. It seems to me Howard Lutnick is sort of a minor league President Trump in terms of both of these approaches. Transaction, if it comes out right, it's because I won. If it comes out wrong, it's somebody else's fault. And reality TV, that I'll say something which catches the public eye, and has us all talking about it. I mean, you have to admit that this is a story of the day. And so, yes, in the way of TV rating approach to international relations, this is a good thing. In the longer run, this is an absurd way to conduct international relations. It doesn't make any sense. And one only hopes that saner heads in great democracies like India and the United States will prevail and not just look at it as make America great again or make India great again or America first or India first, but what is a common good to establish peace and prosperity for the international community in the long run. Unfortunately, President Trump and his minions, such as Commerce Secretary Lutnick, make this very difficult to do at this time. So what has to happen is that the saner heads have to figure out how to work their way around these rapids and these difficulties. But it is an extremely important time. It just begins the list of problems that we have both in maintaining democracy in the United States and in a rule of law approach internationally. But I wouldn't put too much stock in what Secretary of Commerce Lutnick has to say about why this deal hasn't come about. There are more basic reasons.
Yes, and the fact, of course, Bharat, is that this is blatantly untrue because Trump has spoken with Modi multiple times. I think about 8 conversations have happened. That's what the Indian MEA has said today as well.
You're right that there have been conversations, including a recent one between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Trump. I think the script for Howard Lutnick was probably written by one of the White House staffer, one of the insiders, to come up with an excuse. And it's the most ridiculous excuse. If the deal was done, between the representatives of the two governments, including the commerce secretaries, then they are the ones who should set up a phone call between the two leaders to give final approval. They cannot blame Prime Minister Modi. I think Prime Minister Modi has been taking a very wise and very measured approach and not getting into this kind of slugfest of insulting words or excuses. Ultimately, when the deal is in the best interest of United States and India, it will be approved irrespective of this kind of childish narratives.
Yes. Dr. Jaideep Bhattacharya, let me also draw you in here on, of course, this, this sounds like a schoolboy tiff, that one schoolboy, didn't sort of, call up the other or give a toffee to the other, and that's why they're suddenly not friends anymore. I mean, do international relations work like this? Do trade treaties work like this? Do they suddenly fall through or suddenly get signed? Or is this a sort of an ego battle that seems to be putting forth by the Commerce Secretary?
I think the whole geopolitical regime post the current US administration has been pushed to a new paradigm. We are in a post-rules-based world. We are no more driven by rules. The kind of engagements that are supposed to have between two responsible powers or, between the rest of the world, for that matter, that has ceased to exist. And therefore, the kind of communication that we are seeing and the statements we are seeing is the result of that post-rule-based order and post-statesmanly behavior between geopolitical powers. Now, if we take for a moment that whatever was spoken by Mr. Lutnick is correct, that the Indian Prime Minister did not call up the US administration, clearly the communication lines are open two ways, and the US administration could have called up the Indian government. So that's, as straightforward as that. Nobody is stopping any country to call up the other country. And as you rightly said, these deals are very, very detailed. We are talking about the lives of about 400 million people in America and 1.5 billion people in India, which will get affected by these deals. If we sign off on the wrong product for that matter, many livelihoods will be lost here. 60% of people in India are dependent on agriculture, either directly or indirectly. If we sign off on the wrong set of products, it's going to impact a very significant population of India. And India is 16% of the global population. So these deals obviously have to be extremely deliberated upon before they get signed on. And it's not a phone call which gets a deal signed or having any geopolitical tantrums which leads to deals getting signed. In tandem, what we see is that there is a construct being created which allows geopolitical tantrums under a regulatory framework. And what I am hinting at is using trade as a negotiating tool or as a point of leverage rather than, again, a rule-based fair trade. So nobody's anymore talking about free trade, fair trade. It is using trade as a leverage, which is not the purpose of trade. Trade is supposed to benefit both the economies that get engaged in that kind of an interaction. So it is really a very different kind of world that we are seeing, which has evolved very quickly in the last 6 months. And therefore, we are seeing the kind of statements that you just mentioned, which is actually quite unfortunate.
Yes, let me bring that to you, Dr. Sharat Kohli. How should India be really viewing this statement, being the latest chapter in India-US relations as they exist right now, and also the trade deal, which is still being negotiated as we speak? And interestingly, one of the key architects of that trade deal is the one who's making this statement.
Well, if you ask me honestly, there is nothing for India to do right now. The moment 50% tariffs were introduced, it was a closed door as far as the trade is concerned. Most of the Indian products went unviable. So for me, if you ask me as an economist, 50% or 500% or 5,000%, that's another way of saying that please do not send any goods here. I mean, I think they should directly be said that please don't send any goods here. As for this is a lame excuse. Well, as my previous panelists have spoken, if there is any either this is not true, this is just a statement framed by the Commerce Secretary. If that be the case, I think President Trump should own up the statement. If it is the case, then I think it is simply in three letters. I will call it as an ego, that you just want somebody to bend before you, somebody to come and touch your feet, and somebody to say, all right, fine, I'm sorry, please get this through, because we are utterly, suffering because of this deal not happening. My people are dying, my livelihoods are being lost, and we are on our knees at this point of time. Nothing of that sort is happening here. I must inform the NewsX viewers that our exporters have found 40 new connecting lines across different countries located in Australasia, Eurasia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and so on and so forth. We are on our way. Our export numbers are very encouraging. A little bit of exports may have been lost because of the US, but then we are quickly recovering. We are not dependent on the US exports of merchandise anymore. I think US has to realize that. So there was no reason for Prime Minister Modi to bend down. And most importantly, Uday, more than six rounds of talks have been held. By making this statement, you are sort of vindicating the fact that these rounds of talk did not have any meaning. Responsible representatives of both the governments have traveled back and forth, either in America or in New Delhi, for deliberating on the matters. And if they've finalized something, it has to be taken through a protocol. The protocol is, as one of my panelists said rightly, that you should arrange the call. If you don't want to arrange the call, I think the two heads of the state meet whenever they meet, or whatever is the protocol decided in that case. We've had FTAs signed with Australia. We've had them signed with New Zealand, UAE. There have been different protocols, the way the countries agreed. But then when more than six rounds have been held, I don't think there is any room for this kind of a statement to be made that, why didn't he call me? Probably he's used to bullying now, and he's used to people coming before him. I think multilateralism is out of the window now. Even bilateralism, for that matter, Uday, is out of the window. America thinks, I'm sorry to say this, that it comes from another planet. And this is a country which can rule the world, going back into 18th or 19th century of being colonial. You can rule, you can probably pick up the leader of Venezuela. You can go and have an eye on Greenland. You can give strictures and remarks on Cuba, Colombia, Mexico. I think this is being very, very retrospective. Going back to 19th or 18th century, where you can go and rule any country, do whatever you want to, say whatever you want to. There is no concept of United Nations. 66 organizations have been declared now, where US has pulled back. 31 of them from UN, 35 of them not from UN. It is India-led Solar Alliance, which has also been abandoned. There was so much of public work, charitable work, public welfare, which was going on by these organizations. You just pull the plug and say, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I think this is a very, very autocratic approach. I feel, Uday, all this is an attempt to divert attention of the American people from the likely midterm 2026 loss, which is going to be suffered now, which is on the wall already. People of America are not supporting these policies, even though they may sound that you're taking in the interest of the people of America. But the fact of the matter is that people of America do not give a mandate to such policies. This would be known in the midterm 2026 when that happens.
Right.
And then giving a statement today that if I lose 2026 elections, I am likely to be impeached. And that could mean changing the constitution and democratic principles in America. I think all the weird things are happening over there. And this is creating a lot of chaos in the geopolitics and geoeconomics around the world today.
Yes, let me take that, in fact, to you as well, Raymond Vickery. Where does this really leave the current state of India-US ties and relations, and also this trade deal, and the likelihood of it being signed anytime soon?
I think that it is absolutely true that President Trump has thrown the relationship between the U.S. And India backwards, and indeed the world relationship, and even domestically here. But I would say that President Trump is not the United States of America. We, as has been pointed out, have democratic mechanisms which have survived for 250 years, and those are going to kick in. I would also point out that India and the United States, as the two largest democracies, and I would argue two greatest democracies in the world, have very, very much in common. And these underlying realities must require saner heads on both the U.S. And India side to put us back on a trajectory, maybe not today, tomorrow, but on a trajectory which we have followed for the last 30 years. It is not a solution at this point to be drawn in to the tit for tat reality TV, my way or the highway transactional approach of President Trump. And it is not productive to see that as the America which I believe will emerge under our constitutional system.
Okay, let me quickly go back across to Bharat Barai on why these statements have come in. At the top, of course, Donald Trump has spoken eloquently about the great relationship that he shares with PM Modi and India, even though, of course, he has been indicating in a couple of recent statements that they're not very happy with him currently in India or at the highest level for obvious reasons. But why have these stray statements continuously come in from the likes of Peter Navarro and Howard Lutnick?
The White House and Oval Office, 3 or 4 people, they really make all the policies, they write down the narratives. Those are passed on to the Commerce Secretary or any other person. The movement or appearance, even on the TV or news media, is tightly controlled by the White House staff. So if they want to come up with some excuse, somebody writes down the narrative from the close-knit circle of the Oval Office, and that's what either Howard Lutnick or anybody has to speak. I have been talking with many congressmen and senators, and what they tell us in private is a totally different story. Our prediction is that after the primaries are over for the midterm election, see the way system works in USA, there is a primary as to who will be the candidate and then the general election. They are afraid that President Trump and his monetary power, they will try to put up a primary candidate against any dissenting congressman or senator. That means added expense to them and uncertainty. So they want to avoid the primary fight with a fellow Republican. But once the primaries are over, you will see more and more rebellion. As you see, as far as the Obamacare subsidies are concerned, 17 Republicans in the House of Representatives, they crossed over and they voted. And I think some more might do in the Senate, though it may not be enough to get the 60 votes. So I think most of them in private tell us that they don't agree with what President Trump is doing, and there will be a rebellion against his policies after the primaries are over. What will happen in the 26 elections, we'll see. But many Republicans find it difficult to defend the record of President Trump.
Yes. Okay, let me take that to you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Dr. Bhattacharya, back to the trade deal now. Now, reportedly, negotiations have been continuing at obviously a slower than expected pace, but they have been continuing. In December, of course, there was that delegation that had come in from the US into New Delhi. Do you see the likelihood of a trade deal being signed anytime in the first quarter of 2026?
It's anybody's guess because it should have happened in the first quarter of 2025. We were supposed to be the first country to sign a trade agreement with US in April of 2025 after the new regime had come to the US. The last set of conversations was that the trade deal should be done by December. And my response on your channel was the same, that it is likely, but we are living in a very, very unpredictable regime and scenario. So yes, under normal circumstances, we should have already closed the deal by now, and April is a reasonable time. Both the US and India stands to lose in the impasse that we are in. But there are also many other domestic political compulsions that are going on in the US, including the whole matter of Epstein files, which doesn't seem to be discussed anymore after the steps that were taken in Venezuela by the US administration. So we don't know if there will be any more distractions because of domestic policy compulsions, because of the political compulsions, because of elections coming in. But again, ceteris paribus, all things being equal, if we do not have any other distractions, then we do expect that the deal should get signed well before April of 2026. It's been over a year. April of 2026 will be a year since the time that the deal was first supposed to be signed. All the reports that have been emanating is that the concerns of both the US and India have been addressed by each other, and the red lines has been again finally been recognized by both the US and India for each other. And therefore, it's a matter of just closing the final dots and the final phrases. But again, as I said, it's a very unpredictable regime that we are in. We don't know what are the other compulsions that will creep in. And if the domestic politics veers towards a scenario where the current administration gets challenged, that again has to work towards appeasing its farmer community, which again would mean that it will be crossing the India's red lines in farming and dairy products. So therefore, we'll have to keep our fingers crossed and wait till the deal actually gets signed.
Yes. Let me also, in fact, quickly bring you in here, Sharad Kohli, on this pattern. This is a pattern where, of course, this tirade is coming in. Of course, vis-a-vis India, we've discussed it already, but it's coming in, vis-a-vis Greenland, Venezuela, Iran. It seems to be a pattern of my way or the highway.
Well, undoubtedly. I mean, I already spoken about that. But a very subtle observation here.
Yes.
The only good thing about this, the statement which has come, that because Prime Minister Modi did not call, we heard the statement about Prime Minister Modi is not happy, less happy, more happy. Then I'm not less happy, more happy, unhappy. God knows who's happy, who's unhappy. This whole world of happiness, doesn't seem to be getting measured. But, the only ray of hope in this statement is that if you read this statement between the lines, it indicates that the two sides have already finalized, in principle, the terms of the deal. If you read the statement that because
yes, and if it's simply a call that's left, then that means it's pretty much done and dusted.
So the good thing in this is that all the terms have been finalized, obviously, until it comes before us. So I think a call is not a big deal. It is just the ego which needs to be thrown out of the window. So the moment that ego is thrown out of the window, I think the deal is almost done.
Okay.
So the ray of hope is that that the deal is done. It was just a matter of phone call. That's the positive I take out of this ridiculous statement.
All right. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We've run out of time. We're going to slip into a very short break. We'll be tracking this and lots more, of course, on NewsX on the other side.
लाल रंग इसका अपार, तीखा कम है फिर भी